He was first in Parliament in 1978 as the National Party MP for Hunua. There's the answer to a trivia question for you. He was briefly a minister in Jim Bolger's National Party cabinet in the early 1990s before he left National to form New Zealand First in 1993. Now, 30 years later, New Zealand First is still here, and Winston Peters is still here, ready, willing and able to go back to Parliament 45 years after the first time. Boy, that is a long time ago. Why do you still want to do it?
It's strange you should think that, but I often think that myself. But the reality is if you can't sort of stop worrying about your country or sleep at night because the things of so much concern that you're sharing with other people as well, then do something about it. I am.
So can you say unequivocally now that you will not ever form a government, if you're back in Parliament this time, you will not form a government with the Labour Party?
I made it clear as daylight that when I discovered what they'd done after the last election, within a month of that, when I discovered something that was so critical, that I'd never, ever deal with that inner cabal of the Labour Party again. Yes.
So what was that thing that you discovered? Hey Puapua?
Yeah, Hey Puapua didn't come out until, you remember, December of 2020.
Yeah.
I'm the Foreign Minister. I'm in charge of all this, not even showed to me. And for those who argue about it, Willie Jackson is my witness. He said we kept it away from him.
But a lot of people still remember the decision that you made back in 2017 to go with Labour. And they say, therefore, we can't trust Winston because he said he was not going to be with Labour again, or he says he's not going to be with Labour again, but he did it before. He let us down in 2017. He got us into this mess. How do you reply to that criticism of you?
Well, it's totally false for a start. First of all, I had a caucus. It was a unanimous decision when we saw all the evidence. And if you knew the detail about the failed negotiations with National and the circumstances, you'd understand. But again, I went with Jim Bolger back in 96 and I got accused from the other side. You see what I mean? You can't win. So basically, it was a decision we made when we heard all the evidence, and dare I say it, unanimously, not just my decision. And before that, I'd never said I was going to make any plans until the voters had voted as to which way we'd go. So people who predicate the debate on having misled them in 2017 are simply, again, not telling the truth.
But the National Party won 44% of the vote in 2017. Yes. They won quite considerably over the Labour Party. As the third party in that election, don't you believe you had some sort of obligation to go with the most popular party in that election?
44 is not 50%. And when the leader of a political party tells you that they're out to roll them, in the first conversation you have in the negotiations, that's Bill English telling me, and he won't deny it, then you see what I'm talking about. I could just see forward chaos coming. And the later evidence of the National Party, 6 leaders in 5 years, is evidence of that.
But New Zealand First has been through a bit of personnel as well. Like I said in the intro, you've been here for 30 years. You're the constant force. But a lot of your fellow travellers have dropped by the wayside over the years. I think back to 1996, your first caucus had the Type 5, Tuku Morgan, Tau Henare, etc. Deborah Morris, where's she now? Then over the years, Peter Brown, Ron Mark, Tracy Martin, Fletcher Tapito, they're not part of this campaign. How come you lose so many of your parliamentary colleagues? Do they fall out with you? Do you fall out with them?
No, well, I haven't. Ron was in Parliament for 18 years. That's a long time. Fletcher Tapito has got a new business and he can't leave it. These are people who are still on our side. So when you talk about going through personnel, there's the odd one that's fallen away. But massively, since the formation of political parties in 1893, we're the third longest surviving political party. Look at the positive side.
True, but there are still a lot of people that you've had arguments with. Do you believe that you've had more arguments with your fellow MPs than other political parties proportionately in terms of the number of seats in the House?
Look, the only thing stable about the government between 2017 and 2020 was New Zealand First. The moment we left, it was an absolute mess. But the Francis report into parliamentary behaviour and looking after staff, only one political party survived, New Zealand First. It was thought that we were the only party that looked after our people properly, and I'm proud of that. That's the real argument.
Okay, let's talk about that term from 2017 to 2020. A lot of controversy admittedly stirred up by the media about this organisation called the New Zealand First Foundation. Does the New Zealand First Foundation still exist?
I'm so glad you raised that, because no, it doesn't exist.
It does not exist?
No, it doesn't exist. Here's the main point, though. All the allegations were made in the middle of a campaign and repeated by other political parties. They lied to you, and they're still lying, because on the 29th of September 2020, we destroyed the SFO before we even got to court, and they had to admit it, that none of us were under investigation. But they pursued the foundation on the 22nd of July last year. They got dumped again by the court. The court said they were wrong, that there was no offence at all. I put out a press statement that day. Guess how many mainstream media people printed one word of it?
None.
We've just won twice. You see how politics can be rotten in our country? And you possibly think to yourself, why does he bother to go on? Well, I'm going on to make sure people like that don't prevail in our democracy.
But do you believe the New Zealand First Foundation was doing it the right way in terms of attracting funds to the New Zealand First Party? Because it was one step removed and the New Zealand First Foundation became the biggest donor to the party, didn't it? People thought they were donating straight to the party, but they were having it almost laundered through the foundation.
Why don't you join the SFO? They lost twice with that argument, and now you're litigating it. So I'll give you a lesson in law for free. And you know, I am a practicing lawyer, but here's the real point. We won twice on that, and it was proven to be a total series of false allegations. But here's the rub. You heard of the White Matter Foundation?
I have actually, yes.
Yes. You heard about them, lady? No. No, just one party, which mainstream media thought they'd go after an attack. And when they lost, they never had the integrity to print our side of the story.
All right. Well, talking of the media, some of your candidates, maybe provisional candidates, I don't know, they're listed on your website as being candidates. You say they're provisional candidates until your list comes out in the middle of September. The mainstream media's gone after some of them, haven't they, with what you might call jobs, hit jobs? Kirsten Murfitt in particular, Tauranga lawyer. She has been accused of being a bit of an anti-vax activist, coming up with some strange theories. Do you believe your cause is being helped by having people like Kirsten Murfitt as candidates in this election?
Look, if someone shares something on their social pages, it does not mean that they ascribe to it or believe it. But here's the real point. There are people in New Zealand First who are multi-vaxxed, like me, but nevertheless do not pretend to have the arrogance of understanding all the medical science in the way we had rammed down our throats in this country. There were potential side effects for a lot of people. And when you have informed consent before you take any operational medicine in this country, you're entitled to hear all the facts, and they didn't. And I'm not going to stand by whilst you're accused of being conspiracists or going down a rabbit hole because you want to question whether people were treated as the law would require us in medical terms to be treated. And they weren't. And overseas, internationally, there are all these investigations going on. At the senatorial level in the United States, everything's changing now and we're finding out more information. The people who shout conspiracy and going down a rabbit hole are going to look plain stupid when time comes by, not long from now, possibly within a year. Because as Einstein said, when the science changed, I changed my mind too.
So
all we're asking is to tell the public the truth.
Okay, so if you were in Parliament in 2021, when the Prime Minister went back on a promise that there would be no coercion, no mandates, would you have voted and pushed back against that if you had still been part of that government?
Look, I pushed back before that. I pushed back when she and Bloomfield said that COVID had come from Americola, Australia. And I took one look at that evidence and thought, this is impossible. There are thousands of men that work at that plant. Only 2 had it. Is it likely that only 2 in a plant of over 1,000 people had got the COVID from that plant? But they said Americola's product had come to New Zealand and brought COVID here. And they were getting away with it for 3 days until the head of Americola, Australia said, hang on, we haven't exported anything to you for 4.5 months. Did the media write about that? But I was right about that. I'm not being boastful here. I'm just saying, when you see arguments put up that can't stand decent questions, you know somebody's not telling the truth.
So what did you think then about the atmosphere created in the country by those mandates, both at government level and it turned out a lot of private companies as well? The mandates were put in place during the 2021 calendar year. You weren't in Parliament. What did you think as, at the time, an ex-politician, maybe still an aspiring politician, what did you think of what was happening to the country because of those mandates?
Well, look, just to give us the historical framework, when COVID hit here, and I was lucky with David Parker to get back from England, from India rather, we were over there on foreign affairs and trade, and all of a sudden we got home and found out we'd just got home in time. Our memory was, and my memories of my grandparents all dying in the Spanish flu, dying 9-1 on the Maori side to Europeans. So we are seriously concerned. But as things emerged over that year, I began to see things that I could not believe, because as a trained lawyer, you're taught to ask questions. And before too long, I was getting very concerned. When 2021 came along, of course, I wasn't there. But the point was, they locked down the South Island without one case. They locked down Northern without a case. Now, that sort of behaviour is no longer understanding of business and working and workers and families. It was an arrogance of the podium of the truth from the top in Wellington.
So what did you think when you saw in 2020, and I'm just trying to get my timelines right here, you would have still been in Parliament, Deputy Prime Minister, when she used that phrase, the podium of truth. What did you think about her use of that phrase?
Well, I wasn't there at the time, because by that time we'd all been expelled to
back home, back to the provinces.
Well, we've all been expelled back to the provinces. And you might say, we look back and say, I should never have left. I should have stayed there and say,
You should have stayed in Wellington?
Yeah. Well, the problem was
the phrase podium of truth. I mean, I watched it live at the time and I thought, she's got to be joking. Did you, as her Deputy Prime Minister, think the same?
Well, I was aghast at that, because no one has the truth. I mean, you've got to understand a bit about history, and I do, I hope. But when Roosevelt was confronting the Great Depression and coming out of it, he said, look, we won't always get things right, but we'll keep on trying. That's all she had to say. But no, they were saying, no, we know, we've got the science, we know everything. And we straight away thought to myself, they can't know that, because it's too new, not enough time to work out whether you got the right treatment and whether there are any side effects to the magnitude that we now know is true.
How big do you think this so-called freedom movement is? And are you actively chasing it this time around?
I don't actively chase anybody. I made a stand. I didn't know about the freedom movement when I went down to Wellington. I went down because it was the right thing to do. Every parliamentarian had signed a pact not to talk to them. This is unthinkable. In a democracy that all agreed not to talk to these people, massive majority, 99%, were law-abiding, protesting about mandates, not just vaccine, but them being mandated out of work and business and losing their family investment and things like that there. And I was actually astonished. But so when you say, am I out after them? No, I'm not. But I made a stand because I thought it was, that somebody should get off their backside and do something.
So if you get back into Parliament, whether you're in government or not, if you're perhaps even on the crossbenches, do you still want to have a full inquiry into the COVID response?
I don't want the inquiry that's going on now, because it's not an inquiry.
Of course, we all know that. But
yes.
Do you want to push for something bigger and more wide-ranging than what we've got at the moment?
I'll do everything I possibly can to have the right people on inquiry, with the right terms of an inquiry, that's not run by politicians, all of whom are horribly compromised by their mistakes in the past, and so that people, when the inquiry is over, can trust the outcome. That's
so what would the makeup of such an inquiry be? Overseas judges?
Well, possibly 3 here and 2 overseas, because you'll require medical specialists, but you want people coming from no background of compulsion, no background where they're compromised, people who can be neutral and honest with the outcome. And then I'm certain what the inquiry will say.
If you have your way, will it include things such as the safety and the efficacy of the vaccine?
Oh, well, most definitely, because that's what every parliament is starting to do now, and every democracy is starting to do now. I mean, it's happening in the UK, it's happening in the United States, so why not here? We're one of the oldest, we're one of the 8 oldest democracies in the world. Mm-hmm. That it's not happening here in this way means that we're letting the quality of our democracy down. Forget about the politics. We're letting the quality of our democracy down.
So you want to know how many people have been injured by the vaccine, how many people may or may not have died from the vaccine? Do you believe that people have been seriously hurt by the vaccine?
I don't believe it. I know it because it's a scientific fact. I know people who've got relations who died within an hour of being vaccinated. So let's not have this rabbit hole and conspiracy theorist stuff. I'm saying to the people who argue otherwise, you show me any empirical evidence to back up what you're saying now. And they can't.
If you are back in Parliament but are not part of a government, how can you push for such an inquiry, though, as you've just described?
You heard about the wine box inquiry, the BNZ, the Murray Loans
yes,
affair?
I have. Yes,
right, they all
do
were
have a
home
sense of
runs because
history.
I don't leave out just because I'm on the outside. And go for broke and you'll get there. It's how you frame the questions and how much preparation you do. And dare I say it, rack up the embarrassment to force them to give you an honest outcome.
Mr. Peters, the Therapeutic Products Bill has passed. It's now the Therapeutic Products Act. It seems to me, as an outsider, as somebody who uses therapeutic products every now and then to try and maintain health, such as vitamin C supplements, vitamin D supplements, it seems to me that the distribution, the cost of those could become a problem in times to come because of this new legislation. Do you want to have that act repealed?
Oh, look, most certainly, and I cannot believe that a Labor Party who was concerned for the citizens of this country and their right to the availability of good, sound product should have imposed this upon the market. They're going to shut down a lot of New Zealand therapeutic businesses as well. And I first had this put to me in 2007 when a minister was trying to get the law then brought in, and I stopped it then, and I stopped it in 2017 to 2020. I cannot believe, and it shows you how far the Labor Party has degraded itself to go down that pathway. And I can't believe other opposition parties didn't have the sense to see what was going wrong. But our position is clear as daylight. We want that law repealed. No amendments, just out, gone.
And replaced with nothing? There's no need to
No, go back to what we
replace it?
had. What we had was fine. Where was the tragedy or the sin or the offence or the damage of the past? There was none. It was the intent of people offshore to get control of supply onshore.
Do you believe that the hands of Big Pharma are over this? And I'm sorry if that's a leading question, but it just smells as if the likes of big pharmaceutical companies from the United States are pushing the case on this because they might be put out of business eventually.
Well, this is the third decade when that question was relevant. It was all over it in the first part of this century, and it's all over it now. You're quite right.
To the vexed matter of race relations, the Hey Puapua report. Were you at the cabinet meeting that signed off on the commissioning of that report?
Yes.
So you knew it was going to happen?
No. Yeah, see,
okay.
when
Explain those answers.
Well, I've heard people making those allegations,
Yeah.
like Rodney, like Seymour and others, that clearly demonstrates they've got no experience, don't understand, and why we've got a big concern after this election, because they'll hit the ground trying to find the toilets when it comes to the cabinet work, so to speak. It's 2007, I'm the foreign minister, and that declaration came out of the UN. I refused to sign it and persuade Helen Clark also. Not signed by the then Labor government, I'm the foreign minister. And yet, in 2010, under John Key, with Peter Sharples, it is signed up to. That means we have to, as a country, respond to this declaration we've signed up to.
John Keyes got Peter Sharples to sign that, though, because he thought it was non-binding and it was the price of the Maori Party supporting his government. That's the history, isn't it?
Well, how can that be possibly true? I declined it in 2007. What did he do in 2009 if that was the requirement to have the Maori Party on board? Because for a whole year they did nothing. If it was critical, they'd done it in 2009. I've just disposed of that lie. Now I'm getting to the second one. When you have a document like that, you have to report to the UN about what you're doing about it. And that's what that first cabinet meeting was about. Now, guess who that report should come to? The guy that's dealing with the United Nations, me.
Foreign Minister.
Yes, they head it. That means I've got a little conspiracy going on inside the apparatchik of government and with the Labor leaders and the Prime Minister knowing. And my evidence for that was I said to the media, well, go and ask her if she's going to fire Mahuta because you're claiming Prime Minister you don't know. And if the answer is no, I'm not hiring Mahuta, then Prime Minister, you're not telling the truth.
So
I know it's complicated, but that's
it is.
the facts.
The cabinet signs off on the commissioning of a report. You're part of that cabinet that signs
Well,
off on the commissioning.
it's not signing off on anything. It's saying, we need a report. We're sitting here. It's in the minutes. So
Okay.
let's go and get one and see what our response is.
So
It's not signing off on it.
who was the minister then that went and got Claire Charters and her group to write the He Puapua report, or the report that became He Puapua?
Nanaia Mahuta.
But you're saying that it should have been you as the foreign minister that perhaps put that commissioning group into place?
No, if I'd have seen what the commissioning group was, I would have refused them in the first place. I was never shown the commissioning group's raison d'etre in this case.
Or its makeup even?
Yeah, because I knew that the moment I saw that, I'd have known they're biased. They were never going to be independent of it. And first of all, and most of all, they were never going to give it a constitutional legal framework.
So if you're back in the Parliament, whether or not you're in government, what are you going to do about it?
What I've always done about it. If you know anyone that's done more for Maori in his time in politics than me, then please tell me who that person is. Who settled the West Coast leases, fixed up Mount Hikurangi, had the biggest academic change in Maori university students ever. I could go on all day and all night. The Maori Women's Welfare League ensured that Konga Rail got the right support and things like that. There's a long, long list. And as a famous Maori lady said, who's in her 90s now, Winston's not anti-Maori, he's just anti-nonsense. And I am.
If you are back in Parliament, though, the National Party doesn't seem too keen on winding back a lot of this stuff. Their current leadership is, what's the phrase, woke about Maori issues, and seems to be almost in agreement with what is going on inside the bureaucracy at the moment, because it's the bureaucracy which is driving so much of this activity, a lot of activity which has a lot of New Zealanders extremely annoyed, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's the tragedy of this election. For example, you've got one party act to which these issues were brought by Hobson's pledge in 2017, and they said, we're not doing this, there's no votes in it. Like, it's about votes. And then the National Party side, they're horribly compromised by past decisions that they've made, which have cost us so much. Like the foreshore and seabed today is now the coastal areas legislation, and 600 claims around our whole coast, mainly between Maori, and each claim where the taxpayer is paying $300,000 a claim. This is a disaster. So they're compromised, yes. So people can make up their mind whether they're going to go for sort of a blancmange nothing or real action and real stands that actually are in advance and for the benefit of Maori and the whole country, or go down this waste path in which I can tell you the outcome is a disaster.
So do you believe that what you spent, invested in that Provincial Growth Fund was worthwhile, despite the Auditor General saying a lot of this wasn't properly accounted for?
Sorry, the Auditor General couldn't justify that statement. He couldn't back it up with any facts. Have you not looked at what he said? That's what he was told.
But he said a lot of the minutes of the discussions about where the money was going.
The minutes don't matter. How much money was consigned to it, and did it get there, and is it being built? We're building the biggest mussel farm in the world. We built a massive mussel factory in Portuguese. We did so much around this country that'll be there 50 and 100 years from now. That's the difference. And my challenge to the auditor is, no, we had the highly respectable businessmen running this, and they can account for every darn cent. How's that for a government project?
So you will stand by the fact that that PGF was worthwhile and it was a good investment and that the money was accounted for?
Of course it would. And let me tell you this. I've sat here and watched all these politicians arguing about a 29, 30 billion light rail program for Auckland, which will never get off the ground, while we spent $3 billion across the whole country from Invercargill to Kaitaia, and you got a whole lot of urban people calling it a slush fund. They're arrogant sods. Guess who keeps the country going? It's the provinces that do that, and infrastructure is critical, and one party understood it, and that's why we had the Provincial Growth Fund, and we're proud of it.
But wasn't proportionately more of that money spent in Northland than elsewhere?
Well, if you're the most regressed, most undeveloped province in the world, or in this country rather, it's quite possible that that's the case. We were least developed, far less developed in the West Coast or anywhere else from New Zealand. So of course it would be there. Because Northland is still the most undeveloped part of New Zealand for population size and potential asset value. Guess where the greatest gold reserves in New Zealand are at the moment?
Central Otago.
No, they're Northland.
really.
Sorry, you've got to get the geo plans of the future and understand.
Let's talk about economics. Let's talk about things such as free trade. New Zealand is a trading nation. Do you believe in unfettered free trade?
No.
Why not?
Well, trade is an enormous thing, but free trade has got to be fair. It's got to be in the interests of your economy, because the idea of unfettered trade, in the way some people couch it, sounds great until you find that you're the victim of it. So you've got to look after your national interests, and I'm a nationalist, and I make no apology for it, in the same way that Lee Kuan Yew is, the same way as we're Norwegians and the Icelandic person, and dare I say it, the island of Taiwan is. They think of their people first, and so do I. And so, yeah, of course I believe in free trade, but free and fair trade.
So do you believe that we are way too dependent on China?
We are far too dependent on China, and I've made countless speeches about that over a long period of time. From 2008, 2007, I was saying that because I can see the mistake we were going to make. Don't blame the Chinese. Blame us for not having the vision and foresight to spread our eggs into far more baskets. And we are finding now, at a time of the downturn in the Chinese economy, just how serious that is for China and us.
But the point is,
we've got some pain to go through now.
the point is that China has been, ironically, far easier to trade with than the USA and all their tariffs and barriers. So,
Yes,
therefore, it's not surprising that we've put so many eggs in our Chinese basket, is it?
Look, after a year and a half campaign, when I was the foreign minister last time, the President of the United States turned around when Jacinda Ardern was there, looked at his team about a free trade deal and said to them, "Come on, you guys, why not?" He said that in front of Jacinda Ardern after my last meeting, getting it ready. We were on the cusp of getting a free trade deal.
That's Mr. Trump.
Yes, but she should have got up and said, "Thank you, Mr. President, I'm out of here." She should never had one more word of conversation. But that's how close we got. And we've been trying since 1939.
Yeah, I know that. But the irony is that people say way too many eggs in the Chinese basket, yet we've never been able to get any sort of decent trade relationship with the United States. Sure, we export a lot of meat up there, but it's always been difficult to get stuff into the American market, hasn't it?
Yeah, but I put that down to not making our case properly. I mean, I can recall going into meetings with senior people there, even to the level of Vice President Pence, and saying, "Mr. Pence, we don't think we'll get a fair go from you. We went to 2 wars. You turned up 2 years too late twice. Start having some respect for this democracy. We're in a part of the world that's the blue continent that we've got huge obligations. We need your help, and we need your respect." But I put it down to the mispresentation of our case, because that's how close we came. When Trump said that, we were there.
How do we close the gap between the rich and the poor in New Zealand at the moment? Do you take it there is one?
There is a serious gap in it there in this country that other politicians and leaders have been talking about. I mean, Helen Clark closed on closing the gap. She campaigned on those things, and a lot of people have said it. Well, the first thing you've got to do is this: you've got to uplift wages. But remember this: you cannot uplift wages without you cut business taxes as well. That's the only capacity they've got. And what's the solution in between? That you rapidly grow our exports, you grow their wealth creation so you can pay for it. I'm not after taxing people out of existence who are successful, but I'm out of this very mediocre way of performing where we don't sell and do our best in terms of our industries and potential, our IT and added value, do it to the max. How come we've got, for example, a wool industry that's in trouble? This most brilliant product in the world, because of a desultory marketing plan, is doing so bad. We have failed in so many areas.
But that requires investment. Investment's got to come from overseas. Foreign direct investment, FDI.
No, it doesn't have to come from overseas. Where do you think Lee Kuan Yew
There is far more money overseas than there is in New Zealand. So surely it's a good idea to have foreign money put into New Zealand to invest in our companies to develop products such as wool into end products that are going to have a high demand.
And they're all charities. They're all Santa Claus.
No, they're not charities. They're looking for a return on their investment. Of course they are.
Well, that's right. So why can't we invest in our own country? Why can't we invest and grow our own country like Lee Kuan Yew did, like Norway did? instead of living on the darn oil and by way of consumption, they saved the whole lot. Who's been a politician any time in recent times who's ever put a referendum to the people on savings? Well, you're looking at him because I got voted down.
1998, wasn't it?
But we got voted down, 1997. But I got voted down. But they didn't vote away the problem. I'm saying that now this people's sweat and future savings and sacrifice are worth backing ourselves as long as it's for wealth creation and profits, not consumption.
So we have some big funds in this country, ACC, the so-called Cullen Fund, the New Zealand Super Fund, plus all the KiwiSaver money. There are literally, well, I suppose there's hundreds of billions sloshing around in there at the moment. It doesn't appear as if those funds are particularly ambitious to invest in some of the things you're talking about. Would you, as a politician, almost direct them to start investing in more exciting, potentially big industries for New Zealand? Should ACC, should the Super Fund, should the KiwiSaver funds be looking to put far more money into New Zealand startups than what they are?
It depends on the startup you're talking about. If you're talking about a 4-lane highway, which in my country's experience is to be a cost plus blowout mess, then that's the worst thing I'd put the money into, because I'll be wasting the savers' money. But for the right industries, for the right incentivisation, you can do it with straight-out tax incentivisation. If you say to them, for everything, every productivity you gain, you make within your export business, we're going to give you this tax break, they'll get there. But we're not offering people incentivisation. What we're saying is all taxes got to be the same, it's all got to be neutral, that picking winners doesn't work. Now that's a humbug. Other great smart economies have always picked winners. Go and ask Lee Kuan Yew whether you can pick winners. Of course you could. But that's been Treasury's argument and the neoliberals' argument, you can't pick winners. That's why we're losers.
So if you had influence in the government, in the parliament, and it came to investment in something to grow our export potential, to grow a new industry, what sort of tax breaks would you give them? I mean, we've got a company tax rate of 28 cents at the moment. Would you reduce it, say, to what the EU company tax rate is at 15%, or maybe even to what Ireland is at the moment, down to 12.5 cents?
Well, the Celtic tiger, Ireland was a country they laughed at. But from the 80s onwards, they became a brilliant success story. Chile had a blip, so did Iceland have a blip. But they're a brilliant success story. And we should have done the same. And I'll attract money from overseas on the basis you come here to start something new. New exports, new wealth creation in New Zealand. But you're not going to come here and buy our country out so that now we're working for you. See the difference? So I'd do all those things, and I think we'd transform this country. The Nordic countries, the tigers of Asia and dare I say it, Ireland, are great examples of what countries can do. Ireland had 10 businesses bigger than our dairy board. This country, same size as us, 10 bigger than our dairy board, doing far better than us.
Welfare. How do we reduce the amount of money we spend on welfare?
Well, look, first of all, provide an economy where there is jobs, provide people with the skills and education to do the jobs, and provide them with the motivation to go out and do the jobs, and based on this very fundamental fact. Ever since we left the Garden of Eden, we've had to work.
A lot of people have decided they don't need to work, don't want to work, though.
Yeah, but you make sure that they understand that you've got to. They're parking up on the taxpayers' back, on the back of hardworking people who work
So do you reduce their incentive through welfare?
Yes.
So you'd have people go hungry?
No. They wouldn't go hungry if they went to work.
But what if they can't work?
If they're appropriately a beneficiary, justifiably being a beneficiary, which we all hope not to be, of course I'd give them the support, because that's a family way of doing things. But it's not the family way, or dare I say it, the Maori way, to go bludgeoning on your neighbour.
So Job Seeker Work Ready suggests that far more than 3.6% of the country is unemployed. What do you believe, the Household Labour Force Survey, which says 3.6, or do you believe the Job Seeker Work Ready statistics, which suggest that maybe 6-7% of the working age population doesn't have a job?
We tried to change the way we measure unemployment in this country when we became part of the government back in 2017. We couldn't get the Labour Party to understand this. But any measurement of unemployment which says if you've got 1 hour's work a week means you're employed is a lie. So if you're going to deal in lies in your statistical management and judgment, you're going to make mistake after mistake. So we'd change that for a start. The second thing is that these people who are work ready, 56,000, right? This is actually people who are unemployed, but they're being hidden by the government. How can such a number be work ready all this time and not have a job in a place, in a country where they boast unemployment's at the lowest it's ever been?
Winston, the current government income from all sources is about $123 billion, yet the government's spending $155 billion. If I was running a household, that's not very good economic management. What do we cut then to get the country back on the economic straight and narrow? If we're spending $20 billion too much, what's got to go?
Well, that's the very nub of what's wrong with our economy at the moment and the political response to it. You will have heard about the deficit myth. You can go into a deficit if you're in business or in a household if it's all based on future profits guaranteed because you've got the right plan and massive expansion of your earnings. But it's not. It's based on consumption. And this is why this is a disaster. And that's why half of the promises being made in this campaign are disastrous as well from all sorts of parties because they can't show the massive economic long-term gain that'll be here 50 years from now.
So what do we do? Do we cut or do we invest for growth?
You've got to invest for growth. You cut back expenditure that is not going to be productive. You eliminate as much of that as you possibly can, whilst ensuring that you maintain the fundamentals of the welfare state, which we believe in. But the essence is to take all people with you, not with some economic experiment where all boats rise, because they don't, but where, as proven by other economies and us in our past, you can lift things massively and take people from poverty to wealth. And we did when we were the greatest egalitarian society in the world.
So I take it as read then that Jacinda Ardern's captain's call regarding oil and gas exploration is off as well, and you're going to try and start exploration for resources off the coast of New Zealand
Well,
again?
don't forget that was only new licensing. Existing licensing can go on.
Yes, I know, but they saw the writing on the wall and they walked away, didn't they? There's not much oil exploration or gas exploration going on now.
They can't quite make that allegation out because for the 5 years prior to that, they'd not exerted the right to use one of those rights. See what happens here? And we want to know, well, if you are here with a right to explore, why aren't you exploring? Now, she's talking about new exploration, not the right to or present exploration, which they've had for decades.
So do you want new exploration to restart?
There's no need for it at this point in time. It's the existing exploration that I'm interested in because the allegations from the Greens and all the do-gooders about peak oil, which where they started this 30 years ago, turned out to be a lie. Because we have not got peak oil, we've got oil. Peak oil was about a lack of supply. They were arguing back then, of course, to stop the growth in the world and stop the world population as well as growing. So those were disastrous arguments. So we have to transition into a new world, but we cannot shut down our wealth creation and our economy and our power and consistency of electricity, of energy supply in the meantime. That would be fatally bad for us. Because guess what? China and India and Russia and the United States are not. So why would we be doing that?
So are you thinking that there should be widespread cuts inside the public service?
When I say widespread cuts, widespread priorities is what I'd use. We need many more doctors. We need many more specialists. We need many more GPs in the provinces, let alone that. And we need to ensure that those essential services are run properly like a first world. But there are a lot of what I call pet woke projects. I'd start cutting them.
So
they're a waste of money.
We could do with fewer bureaucrats at the Ministry of Education, just as an example?
Well, no doubt about that at all. I mean, we do not need all these people theorising about sexual training in schools. That's the teacher's, that's the parents' job. It's not their job, and they've got no mandate or authority to do it.
So we've got this issue of, what's it, RSE, relationship and sexuality education in schools. It is something that worries a heck of a lot of parents in this country. Do you think it should be done away with completely in schools, or is sex education something that schools should be involved in a little bit?
Well, the rudimentaries has always been in our schools, but this is something different. This is social engineering and indoctrination. And we're going back to education and getting rid of the indoctrination. that was never mandated by any voter in this country.
And your policy the other week about male, you used the word penis, which is pretty good going for the 6 o'clock news.
I said appendage.
Did you? I thought you said the word penis, but it doesn't matter.
In that interview, I said appendage, but I did say it in the question down in Invercargill, yes.
Yes. So you said anybody with a penis cannot go to a woman's toilet.
A girl's or a woman's toilet, yes.
Or a changing room.
I mean, if it's a...
Do you think it's that big a deal?
If it's a
Winston?
2-year-old boy, of course, with a mother, it's different. But I'm talking about the cases of potential assault and actual assault and violation that's happened here and abroad.
Do you think it is that big a deal in New Zealand in 2023?
It's not what I think. It's what girls and women think about their security. And if we don't think that they've got a right to a safe society like everybody else, then we're just being gender biased in the extreme.
The women's sport argument seems to have been won, though, hasn't it? Because more and more international sports bodies are saying no transgender women are going to take part in women's sports.
Oh no, some are and some aren't. And in our case, this government cannot make up its mind. It's too scared to even make a stand on that. And all I'm saying is that if you are by birth biologically favoured in a sport because of your gender against another gender, then that's cheating, it's wrong, and we're against it.
So you're going to legislate for it?
Well, where taxpayers' money is concerned, yes. Where private money is concerned, that's your business.
In terms of the Ministry of Sport and Recreation?
Yes.
Superannuation is universal for everybody who's 65 plus. You've been very good friends to us. Thank you for the gold card over the years, although the benefits are probably not as wide-ranging as you suggest they are. However, Grant Robertson has gone one step beyond universal superannuation for 65 plus. That is the winter heating payment. I don't need it. I suspect that you and your cosy place in central Auckland don't need it either. You're still getting, I don't know what it is, $25 a week from Grant Robertson. If you were in government, would you stop that? Would you means test that?
Well, first of all, if you're talking about people over 65 or elderly people, our plan was to have a sizable discount based on the volume of the customers. So if you have 885,000 people going to this one outlet, you can get a certain massive unit cost of power reduction for older people. That was our idea. And difficulties trying to get them to understand that. They went down this other idea, and you're quite right. A whole lot of people are getting power compensation of the winter time who can't afford it. And yet it's still not enough for a lot of people who can't afford it, where in the very cold regions, or if they're in the wrong house, they're still going to feel the cold for about 6 months a year.
Okay, but there are things such as the community services card for medical treatment. I mean, surely even that is one very easy tool to use, is it not? To say who should be eligible for the winter heating payment and who not?
You could be right. Just don't ask me to make a unilateral decision without consultation with my party before we finish our answer in our manifesto. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Others might often go off the top there and give you a knee-jerk reaction, but I'm not. Right.
Gang insignia. Would you ban it in public places?
We're going to declare gangs as terrorists, just like Queensland and just like Western Australia, because that's their record.
You're going to legislate them out of existence? Good luck with that.
Already, you think so?
Yep.
We're going to offer them a job first, and yes, we are going to take them on. Not for the reasons that you think, but I think the massive misrepresentation of the Maori will on the 6 o'clock news so many nights when the gangs are involved is a disgrace, and some of us with a Maori DNA are going to do something about it. Yes, we are.
Well, what are you going to do? How can you say you shall not exist anymore? What are you going to go and over the bulldozer to their place and just knock it over?
No, we're going to say, you've got this job 40 hours a week. This is what your pathway forward is. We're going to find you the job. You're going to turn up, but you're not selling drugs. You're not going to demoralise and demonise young Maori, young European, and be the centre of a major crime every day in this country. You're terrorists. We're designating you just like 2 states in Australia did, and we're going to get rid of your activities.
But politicians have been saying that since the days
No, they
of
haven't.
Rob Muldoon. Rob was going to crack down on the gangs.
No, he didn't.
He was trying to do it through being friendly with Black Power. That didn't work so well. But politicians have been trying to get gangs out of existence for, 50 years plus. It hasn't been very successful. They're growing faster than ever.
No, I agree with you entirely. Because two things. One, Grangs don't have any regard or any respect for them because there are no consequences when they break the law. In fact, they get escorted down the streets and the whole streets are shut down while they go to a funeral, while everybody else who might be going to another funeral is just bloody forgotten about. These are lawbreakers, and it's all happening with the contempt of the rest of the taxpayers of this country. That's number one thing. And number two, you've had other people like, I heard John Banks say, the day after I'm made the police minister, I'm going to bulldoze down their headquarters. Well, you didn't hear me say that, did you? I said, I'm going to change the law so that you are deputed to be a terrorist.
How would you characterise your current relationship with the media in this country?
I can't ever say I had a charming relationship with the New Zealand media.
Why not? You're quite a charming man, actually.
No, but they're not interested in the facts. They're interested in trying to run a certain dialogue. And as someone with an independent background and a legal background, I just think that people should be challenged. I still have a great admiration for a lot of people in the media. And I actually personally think that this is a disastrous profession to have joined because they've been starved of two things: the resources to do their job properly and the time to do it properly. It's all instantaneous now, and most of it's rubbish. So I feel saddened for those journalists, and I see some now and again, and I think, boy, I bet you wouldn't want to go in that job today. When Grant Robinson came to me and my senior staffer and said they wanted to give the media $55 billion.
$55 million.
$55 million, sorry, yes. I said, you've got to be joking. So we're going to be accused by all and sundry of being people who bribe somebody? I won't do that. I'm not going to agree to it either. And he went around and told all the media ownership, that guy's stopping you. So it's no surprise about the bad press I got after that, is it?
Not when you think about it like that, no. And then did you see the conditions that were attached to that $55 million before it was distributed?
Yeah, it's called corruption. Public Journalism Interest Fund is going to be based on this. You're going to follow this narrative. And the narrative is a lie. And look how far down the rabbit hole of the non-democratisation of this country we've come. That's my response to those people, and they are conspiracy theorists, because that's a conspiracy against the public.
Are you still optimistic about New Zealand's future?
Well, yes, I am. There's many aspects of it which I'm very concerned about, and this, without being extremist, is the inflection election. This election is we either make it or we're off to the third world. That's how critical I believe it is. And that's why I argue that this government's got to go, but the next government's got to be a whole lot better than this one.
Thank you so much for talking to us this afternoon. It's been a pleasure, and good luck for the 14th of October.
I will have to say this has been an extraordinary experience to be asked what I think by the media.